What's happening, CSTers? Welcome to the big show here this Monday evening. Glad you're with us. I am Nick Serberling, FC Cincinnati, drawing the Columbus Crew 2-2 on Friday night in Hell is Real #1 for the 2021 MLS season. We're going to offer up our best and worst and our thoughts on this match. It was quite the eventful occasion for FC Cincinnati fans and for Crew fans as well. A very fun evening. There was some craziness going on Friday night there at TQL Stadium. So we're going to talk about that match. We're also going to talk about some other things surrounding FCC a little bit later on in the show. Apparently they have a match this weekend against Montreal, and nobody knows where it's going to be played at. Is it going to be played in Florida, Canada? We will find out. Of course, we always welcome your feedback. Get in touch with us. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter as well at Cincy Soccer Talk. As has been the tradition, it's shandy time, folks. Pop a top. Let's have some shandy. And let's talk a little FCC tonight here on the program. Let's welcome into the show. It's been a while, but I'm glad to have him back on the show. It's been a really long time. Rob Pierce, welcome back to CST, buddy. How are you?
I am okay, I guess. Okay from the result, but, happy to be here. I figured, Boston had something. He had a story on our website not too long ago, and I thought, well, if he can write, I can be on the podcast again.
This is true.
So I've come loaded for bear. I've got my Ken Hetker Demand Better t-shirt. I'm demanding a better result than FC Cincinnati got on Friday, and can't wait to dive in.
Well, I'm glad to have you back. It's been such a long time that you've been on the show, Rob. I don't even have one of those fancy lower thirds prepared for you. We got to get that fixed. But I appreciate you being on the show this week. Looking forward to getting your thoughts because you were in the press box witnessing this match. So
indeed. Yes.
So looking forward to getting your take. Of course, we also welcome back to the show Mr. Jeff Tebbets. Jeff, how are you, sir?
Oh, evening, partner. Afraid I didn't see you after that Hell is Real roundup over the weekend. Yeah. We got a little outlaw on the run. I don't know if you maybe caught up with him. We got a wanted poster right here. Wanted for shushing. We're looking for Sticky Fingers Cole Porter. Yeah. Looking for $100K GAM for a reward,
Cole Porter, who's that?
Caleb Porter. Porter. He came into our little domicile there and shushed the crowd. That's illegal in 27 states. So we're trying to rustle him up a little bit, maybe for the next Hell is Real.
Yeah, it was quite the event Friday night. Jeff, glad you're here. Looking forward to getting your take. Well, I like the hat. It's very stylish.
It's not really a cowboy hat. Yeah, but anyways, yeah.
I thought maybe you were going Indiana Jones on us for a brief minute.
No, the dog's name is Indiana.
Oh, such a good flick. Appreciate you being on the show. And last but certainly not least, the one and the only Bill Wolf. Bill, welcome back to the show, buddy.
I should just say nothing after that. So literally nothing. No.
Not a fan of the shushing?
No. It was great. I mean, how do I follow that? I don't do voices or,
Not yet. We'll still work on that, right?
Shadow puppets or, I mean, I could try, but
you're just the main drummer.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't know about the main even. I'm a drummer, but no, it's here we are. Soccer, Hell is Real. Huge event. I was out of town the whole week for business, and I hopped in my car Friday at lunch and drove like a bat out of hell for 4 hours and got down to the stadium and marched in with my drum with some very nice co-nights brought to the bar for me, and then that. Anyway, we'll leave it for the show.
Absolutely. We always start off our Monday show with our best and worst. So I'm going to kick it over to Rob first. Again, it's been a while since you've been on the show, Rob. Why don't you offer up your best and worst from Friday's match against the Crew?
My best is going to be Edgar Castillo. What a great way to start things for him with that goal in the first minute. With Matarrita on international duty, you're kind of wondering how he's going to do. He's been doing just fine, actually. No one really has to wonder anymore. who's going to fill Matarrita's shoes. So that's my best. My worst is just the result itself. The situation that FC Cincinnati was in, up 2-0, with a man advantage with 42 of 43 minutes just into the match against a depleted Columbus Crew team. You have to win that game. It's that simple. You have to win that game. The stuff that happened afterward with the shushing and all that, you just kind of feel like that's, and we'll get into this a little bit later, I think, but it just seemed like to them it was a win, and to FC Cincinnati it was a loss. So I mean, they can celebrate in that manner with the game state being what it was, but in the 42nd minute, they just had no business getting a draw. This was FC Cincinnati's game to win, and they did not.
If you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, please leave us your comments. We'll post your best and worst here on the show. This is from Jeremy. He says his best is the sound after that first goal. His worst is my voice is still messed up from yelling. I also had that problem Friday night, Jeremy. That eruption after that Castillo goal was very epic and very memorable. So I agree with you there. Also, this one is coming from Bjorn on YouTube. He says his best, the Tifo and Lucho. Worst, losing a big lead with a man up. All right, Jeff, your best and worst from Friday night?
I'll go with the worst first. I mean, I could go in that direction that I just hinted at the beginning, but I think the worst is probably our substitutions. You can tell that without Locadia there, and without Cruz, and without Matarrita, we were a little threadbare with the people coming in. I like that you have Atanga on the left, and I like that you have Barrial on the right, but I didn't understand bringing both out at the same time. And having Kovacevic and Vasquez both come in at the same time. It felt like they were still not connected, and you had Brenner in the middle. It felt like a very loose 3-man front. And I when they came in and the second goal came in for the Crew, I felt that we weren't going to get a third. The best, I'm actually going to say Caleb Porter. The reason being is that before this game, there were people like, oh, this isn't a rivalry. This is just rivalry in name alone, because, the Crew had beaten the pants off us a few times, and we managed to win at home with no crowd, but we needed something to make things feel like this is a rivalry that has blood to be drawn. With Louisville, it was always James O'Connor. It was the whole Bitegate fiasco. Now with Shushgate coming up, or whatever you want to call it, having that get under our skin makes this feel like a rivalry. I want to go up to Columbus and I want to beat the pants off of them and make them suffer in their own stadium like they made us suffer.
Well said. That's an interesting take to have Caleb Porter being your best. Interesting. I'm sure we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show as well. Bill, how about you? You got a best and worst?
Yeah, I'll take it off the pitch since we've been talking so much about what happened sort of on the pitch, so to speak. But I think the best for me was the Tifo. So I'm gonna go with Bjorn on that. This was the first Tifo in the new stadium. The club spent a lot of effort, a little bit slower than we wanted, but they managed to get all the rigging in place. I think that the creatives and the supporters groups came up with an interesting way to take advantage of the rigging without, going full in, being it was the first time. And I think there was a lot of coordination and just hundreds and hundreds of hours of time from so many people that got put into that. And I certainly contributed at some level, but not nearly at the level that many did. There were people for almost 2 weeks straight up till midnight working to get that Tifo ready. And it was the biggest we'd ever done. Ironically, it looked like, it was kind of small in the new Bailey, which I think is actually maybe exciting because it means that there's room for it to grow. Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, that was the biggest we'd ever done. And it's going to be challenging to make them bigger. But I think we keep trying to up ourselves, and I think we're our own competition, which is great. And, it was fun. It was creative and people seem to like it, and that's really what it's for. It's just to show that, you know, we have that creativity. So I thought it was wonderful, and it was a lot of fun, and everything pretty much went as expected. So that was the other thing, because there was a lot of concern about timing and everything else with, you know, I mean, when you get on TV and everything, there's so limited amounts of time to when things can happen. And it had to be timed with the club. They actually, I don't know if anybody noticed, they actually changed the order of events. They used to do the player announcements after the national anthem, but they wanted to do the hype video and the TIFO, and they couldn't do both. So they actually moved the player announcements before the national anthem. Issues with the speakers on that. I know a lot of people complained they couldn't hear. I certainly couldn't, but that's not a problem with the ordering. It was something with their stadium stuff. But anyway, that was the best, the TIFO. Worst for me, honestly, is our fans. I get really frustrated after games like this. You know, I feel like, you know, certainly for me, I was humongously disappointed in our club, in the team, and the result that we got. And we'll discuss that coming up here. But what frustrates me is I feel like when these things happen and our fans get disappointed, they're like the snake that eats its own tail. I mean, we go after each other in the weirdest ways. And some of just the dumbest, nastiest, stupidest things get said on social media. You know, bad mouthing the Bailey and you know, if you're unhappy with the Bailey, join the Bailey. That's all I'll say, and I'll leave it at that. Because if you think that we should be doing something different in there, then get your ass in there, and shut it. So, and I'll leave it at that.
All right. Let's see, man. I will say for me, my best would be, how about I'll just say the stadium as a whole. This was my first time even walking into TQL Stadium, and I'll tell you what, it did not disappoint. I mean, I spent probably a good, I don't know, year and a half every day on my lunch break. I would log into the construction webcam and see the progress. So like, I have only seen the stadium up close and in person. Now this is only the second time I've seen it. This is the first time I'm going into it, and my goodness, I tell you what, just to look and see where this club is from 2016, playing in front of 14,000 people against the Charlotte Independents in the USL, to having a freaking gem of a stadium in a great location in town. I mean, just absolutely fantastic. So for me, that was the best for me, just because I got to finally witness it and see it. I'm sitting there in my seats, and I'm looking over at the Bailey, and I'm just astounded at how freaking large this section is. I mean, it was incredible, absolutely incredible. So that's my best. The worst, man, the worst is I sat there in the second half, and at halftime I was hanging out with Boston and Ken, and we were drinking our shandies, and we were just talking about, in fact, the last match I had been to in person, gentlemen, was the Hell is Real in Columbus in 2019. And you talk about similarities. FCC in that match, what were they? Up 2-0, concede a late goal in the first half on a crap penalty, and then hung on for dear life. Now the difference is this match, they were up a man, but I remember sitting at the match Friday night, sitting next to my son and asking him, "Hey Ben, which team's up a man right now?" Because I could not tell. Like, that was the most frustrating thing. Like, yes, you're up a man. You should be possessing the ball and making the Crew run all across the pitch. And instead, it just felt like FC Cincinnati sat back and was like, "Yep, go ahead, Columbus, you can have the ball." That to me was baffling to me. And I don't know if that was a Stom decision. I don't know if that was the players not executing the game plan. Again, I don't know. It was just frustrating because you're up a man against the Crew at home in Hell is Real. You should be putting your foot on their throat, not even letting them get the ball to score goals. That was the frustrating part and worst part for me. Any of you three have any comments on that? How about you, Jeff?
I mean, I haven't really gotten a good look at all the stats, but the one that sticks out, and it's deceiving, is the XG that Ken loves. It was practically zero in the second half. We really weren't pressing to put things away. I mean, if you're up 2-1 with a man, at your disposal, I think you want to get that third goal so that you can push, you can finally put this game to bed and, be a little bit more secure. But there was no pressure to get that third goal. I don't know if that was just Stom, resting back saying, I depend on the defensive squad. Cameron had a good game. Sure. I think Cameron has been one of the best players, but it was that lack of concentration at that end that gave up that second goal, and Viacia got beat. Vermeer came out late again. It just felt like, madness all over again.
It reminded me of, as you said, Subs, the 2019 Hell's Real in Columbus.
That's probably the last match you were in the press box for. My goodness.
No.
One of the last ones, though.
Yeah, 2019. I was there for the home season finale, and also the Revs earlier this year. I was in the press box.
Okay.
But yeah, the way the game kind of ebbed and flowed reminded you a lot of that. But it also reminded me of the 2017 USL Open Cup semifinals against Red Bulls, where if Columbus had an extra half hour, I think they would have won.
Yeah. Bill, you got thoughts?
I'd echo a little bit what you said, Subs, not to pick on my wife or anything, but she sits somewhere else. Obviously she's not a Bailey girl or anything, but she's got her own seats, a little bit quieter location. And, after the game, we talk about it, and she apparently missed the red card for awful. And she was like, wait, they were down. She was like, they were down a man. And I was like, yeah. So, but you're right. They never looked like they were down a man. The possession at the end was in Columbus's favor. We had over half a game with an extra man. Like you said, we should have been passing, controlling, forcing them to run, wearing them out. It was the exact opposite. They owned the ball most of the time, and we were doing the running, which made no sense at all. And honestly, when the goal came, I just looked at, Max Ellerby was standing beside me, and I looked at him and he looked at me, and it was like, we just knew it was coming. And we'd been waiting for it. You just knew, you could sense that the game was going in Columbus's favor. We weren't pressing. We weren't attacking. We were kind of toothless at that point. And, Jeff said it earlier, our substitutions were really, really thin in this game. So it's even more frustrating that, you're in that situation where you're in theory dominating a game so well. You kind of stop dominating it, and then you make substitutions into a very thin roster. I think Stanko looked lost out there against El Ryan. He was dancing, but it was to a different song, I think, than Zellerayam was.
Yeah, the disappointing thing was, again, you give up the second goal, and now you're starting to that part of you starting to think, oh my gosh, like they could lose this. Like if they don't fix something quickly, there's the chance that, they just think about this too. They were inches away from the Crew actually winning this game. A Zellerayam shot doesn't go off the crossbar.
Yep.
We're talking inches away from the Crew walking out of there with 3 points. So that was the frustrating thing for me, is just like, and I talked about it with Kenneth, early on in that second half. At that point, Kubo's on a yellow, and with the way this official was calling the match, oh my gosh, like if I'm Kubo, I'm not going into any tackle. So now you're taking away his defensive intensity, because it wasn't going to take much for him to get a second yellow, and now we're talking 10 on 10. So it was just, I don't know, and Red Lake fans on Twitter, he brought this up. He says, I thought we looked gassed after pressing in the first half, and we couldn't go after the game later.
And that's going to happen one of these days, where Kubo gets that second yellow. He's playing with fire.
For sure. I'm surprised he managed to finish the match Friday night. So yeah, the substitutions, and again, what is Jaap Stam supposed to do? Like, there's not many options at the moment right now, substitution wise. Who's he going to bring on? At this point, it kind of is what it is.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. We were talking about cards for Kubo, and that was another frustrating thing about this game for me. It wasn't just that, we had the lead and we gave it up, and we I think you're going to ask the question, but I'll tell you my answer right now. We threw away 2 points for this game, but I think what frustrated me as well was the cards. I mean, it was I think the referee himself was not phenomenal, and I think there was a lot of inconsistency, and there was certainly some questionable non-calls even.
Sure.
But that's not why we lost. And
nope. Well, we didn't lose, but yeah,
or not. Well, okay,
it feels like it.
It felt like it. You're right. But it's why we gave up, or it's not why we didn't win, I guess is maybe the way to put it. Yeah. But regardless, we picked up a lot of really stupid yellow cards, and Columbus basically just took advantage of the referee's situation. They pissed our players off to the point where they just did dumb shit. And, it was like Castillo obviously went in to defend his buddy, but he ends up, pushing a player and getting a yellow card or whatever. I don't know, or mouthing off. I don't know what ended up being the reason. But Kubo and Barriel both just kicking the ball because they were mad. It's like, that's not a good reason to get a yellow card,
To be fair, that was Barriel's last action in the match.
He was
being subbed off.
Yeah.
So when he did, that was quite the epic ball kick into the stands.
Yeah. Well, and I understand why he was mad, but at the same time, it's like, now you got a yellow card and you're one more. I mean, no, we're not going to get a red card in this game because we pulled him off, but and yeah, somebody's even commenting Stom got a card. I was going to leave that out, but he did. He got a card as well. That one doesn't worry me so much because do they do accumulation of yellow cards for coaches?
Yep.
They do. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'm not thinking he's going to get as many as Kubo, but Kubo.
Oh, no. You mean, okay. Yeah. There's no, I don't think there's suspension for, okay. No. I see what you're saying.
But Barriel, right. He comes out of the game, but he picked up another yellow, right? Yeah. So when do we miss a game sooner because of that yellow? And when does Kubo miss a game? Gosh, he's got to have, he's got to have 4 at least, I would think by now. Gosh,
I'm pretty sure it's 4.
Yeah. So, he's probably going to play one more game, and the way he's been going, because he's, he is tackling pretty hard back, in that 6-8 position. He's going to miss the next one after that.
So Bill brings it up. Let's call a segue, folks. I want to ask you, if you're watching us now on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter, is this match Friday night against the Crew, was this 2 points dropped or was this 1 point gained? Jeff, your thoughts?
I want to be different here. I want to say we did lose 2 points instead of, the Crew taking 1, but I also want to say the ref gifted them 1 point. You look at really the flow of the yellow cards, and after, I mean, granted, you're down 10, you probably don't want to have any more yellow cards, but after Awful was off of the pitch, no yellow cards at all for the Crew. And we were in our own heads. Everything came from us. It was Cameron getting a stupid yellow card at the end of the first half. It just felt that the Crew
at least he deserved it, though.
Yeah, I mean, you look.
I'd rather you tackle somebody and get a yellow card than kick a ball. Sorry,
I'm surprised that Mensah. He had easily 3 yellow cards in that game, and he ended up getting only 1. So I want to say that they were gifted a point instead of we losing 2 points.
I just heard a pop top. Was that you, Rob?
Yes, it was.
Nice. Yeah. I know it's not a Shaney, but he's ready to go. So was that 2 points dropped or a point gained?
Oh, I want to be different too, but I can't. It's 2 points dropped. It was what Joe Giles said in the interview afterward. We had it. Those were his exact words. We had it, and they kind of, as Jeff said, kind of got in their own heads a little bit. And like I say, in the game state the way that it was, you have to win that game. So it's clearly 2 points dropped.
I think if you take in all of the factors, right, as it was, the Crew were very shorthanded. I mean, they were missing a lot of guys either to international call-up duty or through injury. So they were playing with a very depleted roster. If you were told before the match that FC Cincinnati was going to play 50 minutes with a man advantage and have a 2-goal lead, what do we all say here? That should be 3 points in the bag. Any professional Major League Soccer team should be able to claim those 3 points in that match. And that's the frustrating part. I think there's a lot of things to be positive about, right? This is the first time in TQL Stadium history they had a lead. That's the first time. In fact, their first goal is at home since the Miami match. So there's some positives there. I mean, the goal from Castillo was fantastic. But again, you're up 2 on your in-state rival, the biggest rivalry game of the year. Those are matches you have to close out. You just have to.
I mean, if you had circled this match at the beginning of the year and maybe not been paying so much attention to the Gold Cup, schedule or whatever, but if you'd circled Columbus at the beginning of this year and somebody said, would you take a point now? I think most of us, considering they won last year and we were the wooden spoon, would have said, heck yeah, right? I mean, 1 point, done, I think going into this game, I think I was in that mode of, I know they're missing some players, and definitely on the striker area they're hurting, but they still got Zelleran, they still got Nagby. They've got a good roster and they have some depth. And not all the people missing were necessarily starters. And I think that it still was going to be a tough game. So I was in the mindset of, hey, this let's not get too excited about the Gold Cup and the missing players. Then you looked across the league, right? Because we played Friday, where most teams played on Wednesday, which is when we were going to originally.
A couple games on Thursday too.
Yeah, a couple games on Thursday. But you see Chicago win, and you see Miami win, and it's like these bottom teams that aren't missing as many players as the top teams start to get some results, and you realize we're going to fall behind. We have to win this game. It becomes kind of a must-win game because we were on an upward trajectory. And I wouldn't say must win in the sense of must win, but it's like, hey guys, look what we just did, right? We just beat Chicago. We just beat Toronto. We picked up 6 points. This is a good thing, right? And now we have this trajectory. Now we go up against a depleted Columbus. We kind of need to get the 3 points here. Then 2 goals, a freaking man up. At that point, it's just a joke. I mean, it really is. I mean, there's no way we should have come away without 3 points. Everything considering the week before, the home field advantage, the Gold Cup depletion. I mean, you just listed off, boom, 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 boom. There was just no reason why we should not have got 3 points in that game, and then we didn't. So, that for me as a fan, that was absolutely maddening. So,
at least the good news is that, looking at the league, the entire league overall, we're not the only ones that are crying in our beer. You take a look at the games on Thursday night.
Oh, it's carbon copy.
The Red Bulls had a 1-0 lead, lost it at home to a 10-man Philadelphia squad. 1-1 draw. Yep. You look at Nashville getting Atlanta into a stupid red card. I don't know why that was a red card.
Wasn't a red, but whatever.
It wasn't, but still they were up by a guy. They couldn't take advantage of that. So at least we're not the only team this past week who had an advantage and couldn't take advantage of it.
Yeah. I want to get to this comment here on Facebook from Jeffrey. He says, MLS Instant Replay seemed to think Mensah should have been out with a second yellow. Do you agree? How much do you think all the yellow cards were a factor in our stalling out and letting Columbus draw? I mean, I think we all would agree that Mensah was very lucky to be on the pitch still.
Yep.
Then that would have been an even crazier game. The thing about the Mensah tackle, how does VAR not review that? Like, how does VAR not see studs up into the shin of Atanga? I mean, how does that get missed?
Yeah, that's a weird one. I mean, VAR, I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here and be Ken. But VAR is, no, I'm not going to be Ken because I support VAR, but VAR is, I mean, I think MLS is doing something a little bit right with VAR in that we're trying to not make it very intrusive, right? There's only really specific cases where VAR steps in. One is, of course, red cards. Another one is goals. So there's these moments where VAR can review, but it's not out there questioning every single thing that the referee's doing. In this case, if it was a yellow card offense, right, then it would have been a second red. But in the sense of like the flow of the game, like for them to make all that decision and then stall it fast enough to get the ref in there and say, let's review a yellow to see if it's actually a second yellow.
But I don't think a yellow was even given.
Well, it wasn't.
Yeah.
But that's my point, right? Was that, I mean, if a yellow had been given, if play had stopped, maybe VAR would have, well, actually it wouldn't have mattered because VAR would have, I mean, they would have known it was a red. But my point is that the goal is not to stop play, right? I mean, the goal is to keep things going. So I think situations like that, VAR just really doesn't handle them. And yeah, we'd like them to. We'd like for VAR to see a yellow card. But on the other hand, we don't want VAR reviewing every single tackle to decide if it's a yellow card offense or not, right? Because that would affect the flow of the game. So.
In general, that one's on the referee. I mean,
It is.
The slide tackle behind Atanga was, if it wasn't studs up, it was from behind. That's a yellow card in my book. The tackle that he made on Acosta, basically Acosta had to jump up to prevent getting spiked, which is again a yellow card. He got approached from behind, and even the actual yellow card that he got, that was an elbow to the head. In some cases, that's a red card as well, especially with the history of him fouling the past two guys with questionable fouls. Yeah. You had to wonder, with the referee, is this something that he was afraid to have it get out of control and wanted to leave it going? And then when we countered and gave lip, that's when the yellow card started to come.
I want to talk. Oh, go ahead, Rob. Chime in.
I was just going to say in Jeffrey's second question, he asks, how much do you all think the yellow card was a factor in stalling out and letting Columbus draw? Looking at where the yellow cards came from, Castillo and Kubo had a couple early, and I kind of would like to see Kubo subbed off in the second half, but Cameron gets that one in stoppage time. You just tell him to be careful in the second half. And then after that, Viacia, Barrial, and Stanko, those all came a little bit later.
I think, honestly, this team has a history of taking their foot off the gas. I mean, I think we like to blame the ref, and I think there's certainly some blame to be given to the ref. But again, I am not going to put any real claim that this result is different with a different referee. I think this team tends to get ahead and then we sit back, and I don't know why that is. I've heard Stom in halftime interviews say, we got too deep. We took our foot, basically we were playing too deep. We weren't pushing. So it doesn't seem like it's something he's directing them to do. So I don't understand why that is. Is it the, maturity of the players? We have a lot of young players that they're, getting scared or, worried about protecting their lead, or I don't know what the deal is, but there's something odd that's going on there that this team tends to do this. So
I definitely want to talk a little bit more about this match, but before we can discuss it a little bit more, it's that time of the show where we give a big shout out and thanks to our tremendous supporters. So let's give it up to Tim Bronsel, Tom Rose, Matt Adamczyk, Mike Hudson, Brian Malone, Jamie Smed, Jonas Tom. I ran into the one and only Jack Emery on Friday night after the match. It was good seeing you, Jack. Mike Bowman, Kathleen Francis, Matt Emholt, Matthew Long. Also ran into him. Had quite the conversation with him at halftime. That was very pleasant as well. Thank you, Matt, for your support. Joe Coling, Tara Mullins, Riley Stephen Burke, and Melissa Bingle. Thank you so much for supporting us here at Cincinnati Soccer Talk. To learn more on how you can support the show, head on over to CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/support. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about this match as a whole. I think when you look at, especially being up a man, and I had a conversation with a couple of friends of mine after the match Friday night from the stands as I was waiting for the concourse to clear out because it was quite hectic there in the concourse with the amount of people there. We were just discussing how offensively it just feels like, and maybe you three can correct me if I'm wrong, or if you're listening to this or if you're watching, correct me if I'm wrong here. It just feels like the team says, here, Lucho, do something special. And we almost are over-reliant on Acosta pulling some sort of magic trick out of his bag to score a worldie. I feel like we're beating a dead horse here, but where's Brenner? This is your $13 million striker. What kind of production are you getting out of him? So offensively, gentlemen, especially being up a man, how disappointing were you that FC Cincinnati couldn't capitalize on that?
it was very disappointing. Obviously for me, I've made my point, my opinion pretty clear on that. I think you're right a little bit about Acosta for sure. I mean, if you watch them, it seems like almost every other pass is to Lucho. It's just, everything flows through him, and that may be the plan. It certainly puts us in a vulnerable position that if a team is able to mark him in a way that, he can't be creative,
the game.
yeah, then we're done. I think, Brenner, I see him very involved in those, you get Barriel, you get Atonga, you get Brenner, and they're all, moving that ball back and forth with Acosta, which I think is what we want to see. What I don't see is very often them taking that chance, right? I mean, Acosta is trying to weave his way through, but I'd like to see, like you said, more of Brenner trying to take on some people one-on-one, and obviously Barriel's been pretty successful scoring some goals for us, but we need more out of Atonga as well. So it shouldn't always be Acosta, I guess is your point, and I agree with you that yeah, we work through him too much, but in some senses, if we do that, then it almost means that we can make that change at one moment to give it to somebody else. And if they take that opportunity, it should be a goal because the other team has got 3 people on Acosta.
Right. Yeah, I think off the top of my head, and again, I have not gone back and watched the match. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. Do you guys remember Brenner getting a shot on target during this match at all?
No,
No.
He had
I
2
don't even remember.
shots.
Did he have 2 shots? Okay.
Yeah,
so,
both were blocked. So he wasn't invisible, but I mean, yeah, you at some point you have to ask your seems like we keep saying this. You have to ask your designated player to score.
I see, and even I don't remember those 2 shots. I remember Joe Jal almost scoring. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, Joe Jal. I mean, he had that shot near post that almost went in. In fact, from where my vantage point, it looked like it had gone in, but instead it hit the outside side netting. But yeah, and that's the thing. I don't even, and Clifford's also chiming in saying that Brenner's shots both got blocked. So maybe I'll just have to go back and watch. I guess, again, it just feels like we're just too reliant on Acosta, Jeff, and eventually these attacking players have to start producing.
You take a look at, I'm a big fan of heat maps. It really tells you, who's got the ball, who's got it where on the field. You take a look at our heat map, and I think our major, like the 5 major ball holders, I guess you can say, 3 on the D lane, and then you've got Kubo, and then 2 big spots. Both of them were Acosta. You take a look at the other side, and you'd think that, well, if Acosta's holding it, got the ball that much, so Ryan must have it just as much. No, not really. He didn't have much of a heat map at all. And so it's definitely telling me that Acosta's doing a lot of the lifting, and maybe it's without having Cruz in the middle. Maybe it's without having Matarrita pull a little bit more up front. Maybe those 2 missing pieces means that Acosta's trying to pull his weight a little bit more now, but I'm hoping that we can get a little bit more distribution between everybody.
And to be fair, Brenner was involved in the second goal, right? I mean, they had the combination play between Atonga and Brenner. The ball kind of just fell into the path of Acosta, who put it in the back of the net for that second goal. So, I mean, he was involved. But again, it's like, what's the plan for the striker? Is he going to be a fox in the box, like we've seen a couple of folks chime in here in the chat? Where he's just kind of one of those goal poachers who pounces on those loose balls inside the 6, inside the 18. But then at some point, there's got to be service into those areas. And right now, we're not getting that from Jiao. We're not getting that from Barrial. And we're not getting that from Atonga. So I don't know. What's going on here? This is like we've got to unlock this mystery here to get this kid going, because man, they spent a lot of money on him to not be producing.
Yeah, and I don't know that crosses into the box are necessarily something that's going to work for Brenner. I don't know that he's got the height or the mobility to get up in the air and win those balls. So when you do see Jiao or Barriel or Matarrita in the past before he went to the Gold Cup, launching balls into the box. Usually for me, those were kind of lost balls most of the time. Obviously if something would come down in a funny way, you'd hope that Brenner would take advantage of it, but I don't know that, that's a really, it's more of a hoping style than a real strategy.
We'll see what happens, right? Hopefully Yapstam can get it figured out. So again, it's disappointing that FC Cincinnati couldn't capitalize and get 3 points on the Crew. It does mean that their unbeaten run continues. They have not lost since Shandy time started on the podcast. So we're going to keep it going, folks. We're going to keep it going here. I'm on Shandy number 2 this evening. But before we move on to talk about some other FC Cincinnati news, I just want to send a sincere apology. I heard that there was a fan of FC Cincinnati Friday night screaming my name throughout the match, trying to get my attention. And I just want to say that I am sincerely sorry, Jonah, over at Knifey Lion Radio, that in my old age, I have somehow lost the ability to hear. I did not hear you screaming my name throughout the match at all. In fact, I asked my son tonight. He also did not hear it. So, Jonah, I sincerely apologize that I did not hear you and you were not able to get my attention during the match. I apologize. I genuinely did not hear you. I swear. If I had heard you, I definitely would have turned around and looked your way. So that is me apologizing, Jonah, for not being able to hear you. On that note, I also want to give credit. Earlier last week, actually, I guess it might have still been this week, we got word from Travis Grimes over at U8 Lion that Yuya Kubo was going to be a DP again. Sure enough, it looks like he is. We're seeing that on the FC Cincinnati roster, and now was a TAM player, but is now back to a designated player. So that frees up some folks, frees up FC Cincinnati some budgetary items, some more TAM, gives FC Cincinnati the ability to bring in some more TAM players. It does also mean now that FC Cincinnati's got 3 designated players on the roster again in Brenner, Luciano Acosta, and now Yuya Kubo. So what did you make of this news, gents, about Yuya being a DP again? Jeff, you're shaking your head.
I'm shaking my head because I can't get my head around a lot of these things. This is when you're talking about these things, my mind starts wandering into cryptocurrencies and Dogecoin and all. I'm like, have we got a cryptocurrency here? Because I don't understand how these things work anymore. Maybe we should call it like Opecoin or something like that.
Opecoin, bravo.
It's to the moon. I just don't understand how you can pull things up and down sometimes. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to turn into my dad in this case, and he's just going to sip his beer and just nod, and whatever happens, happens.
I mean, it's really just a label, right? I mean, what we can get out of this is the fact that we know that the club is not for this transfer window shopping for a player over $1.1 million, right? Because I think that's the amount that once you cross that, you have to be a DP. You can't buy down a player over that amount. So they've indicated to us that they're hopefully shopping for some players, but that they're going to be either maybe high roster what do you call it, caps, or maybe a TAM player or 2, depending on how much money we have, and I think that's what it really comes into at this point. So yeah, Clifford's on a roll today, man.
Clifford is. He says in the Facebook chat, quote, "I'm going to turn into my dad," end quote. Quote of the show, easily, and a great movie premise. I like that.
There
Wesley
probably has
Jackson,
been one of those, right?
For sure. Wesley Jackson on YouTube has a new term for it. It's called Garber Coin.
Yeah.
TAM bucks, Garber bucks. Yeah. I have tried for years to grasp this salary cap and TAM DP, this whole budget thing. This is Ken and Brad's expertise. I'm glad that they have figured it out. But Ken mentioned that this probably had a lot to do with the salary of Jeff Cameron and not having enough TAM and flexibility there. So they had to make somebody a DP. And if they weren't going to be bringing in a DP in, then this allows you to have some more flexibility, because it's clear based on what we're seeing in these substitution patterns that this roster and bench is not very deep. And they've got to bring in some some folks in this transfer window. I don't know if they will. Hopefully they do, but we're not aware of anything coming in at the moment. So Yuya Kubo, though not officially announced by the club, we did see that it was on their roster page, and full credit to Travis Grimes over at You Ain't Lying for getting that information out earlier this week. So keep it tuned in here for more information about roster moves and budgeting and whatnot. Jeff, did you want to chime in?
Just imagine what would have happened if we had sold that international slot for actually the 250,000 to Nashville instead of going through Portland and getting only 100K.
Yeah, that was quite the thing last week too. A lot of, and now that we know kind of the backstory, it just from a optics standpoint, it didn't look great. FC Cincinnati only getting $100,000 for the same slot that they spent. I think it was 200, and I don't remember what the exact total is, but they got slammed by the national pundits for looking not good. But you know, now that we know that there was it sounds like there was some sort of an agreement in place.
Yeah, from what we've heard, you know, basically Portland and Cincinnati had a deal. I mean, Van der Ferf was waiting for a green card. We know he got his green card, but it didn't come soon enough. So we were kind of stuck, and we made an arrangement with Portland to get a green card for half a season, right? And then we had a deal to have them buy it back, and you know, we honored that deal. And I think for us, the price wasn't ridiculous. So you know, it in itself, other than the fact that we got stuck, you have to get another international spot, which I think we can get into a whole discussion about why we have so many of those. But you know, beyond that, right, the deal itself made some sense. What I looked at from that, where a lot of fans got upset, I actually looked at it as Portland is really freaking smart. They basically worked out a deal with us. They knew they were getting this thing back, and they went over and just raped Nashville. I mean, and talk about idiots. I mean, gosh, they paid so much freaking money, and there had to be other international spots out there they could have got for cheaper. I can't imagine that Portland was the only one.
They could have gotten it from us. But,
well, they couldn't have unless we backed out of our deal. That would have been kind of crappy, and I think we try to be nicer than that. But I doubt it. I was probably a handshake deal, so we probably could have. But
yeah.
I'm wondering if the league now seeing this, I wonder if there's going to change the rules on these international spots and like how you go about. I mean, I guess I don't know how you regulate basically renting an international spot, but we'll again, that was some news that came out last week. I also want to clarify something that we talked about on last week's show and have talked about it over the past couple of weeks as well in regards to Kamahila Makocho. There's the guy, again, that FC Cincinnati brought in last season, played a ton of minutes, and now all of a sudden has found himself on the outside looking in and making a lot of money in regards to this roster and how it was built. And we sat here and questioned why FC Cincinnati doesn't use the buyout on him. And it's because that buyout can only happen in the preseason. So I want to clarify that. You know, we've been talking about, man, they should just buy out his contract, use the one-time exception and buy out his deal. If he's not going to play and is not in Jaap Stam's plans, but unfortunately FC Cincinnati can't because that can only be done in the preseason, cannot be done once the season starts. So that is that. But once again, here's another guy who cannot seem to break into this team and was playing a lot of minutes. So I'm not exactly sure what the hell happened there, but we'll see. Maybe he's not fit. Maybe he's injured and we're just not aware. I don't know. I
mean, we have multiple players on TAM deals in that center midfield, right? I mean, obviously Acosta is a DP, but you know, we got Madunian in, we've got Makocho, and then we've got Cruz. So you've got three players.
Franco.
But yeah, but I'm saying just for the center midfield.
Okay.
Right. So you got two spots for three people. One's going to have to sit on the bench, which in my mind is a little bizarre in itself of why you'd have three TAM players vying for two spots. And then, you know, to make it worse, we took Kubo and we slotted him in there out of position, right? And taught him to play center midfield. So now we have four TAM players playing for two spots, which means we have, you know, a couple $1 million sitting on the bench every game. And I don't understand what we're doing either. I think from a standpoint of of that situation. I mean, Medunjanin, at least we're seeing a little bit of time from him. He's a really expensive substitute, but Makocho is crazy. I mean, we can reflect back. We were asking the same question at the beginning of the season or whenever about Cruz. Why is Cruz sitting on the bench? He's $1 million player, right? Who,
and now we miss him.
Yeah, now we miss him. We want him back. But my point is that earlier on, we wondered why he was being wasted with so much money on the bench, and it was ridiculous. And now it's just Makocho because we have too many players. Somebody has to sit on the bench. The way this roster was set up, we've got a lot of money invested in 2 spots, and only two people have to sit on the bench.
No. So again, I just wanted to clarify what we had been talking about the last couple of weeks. You're right. It's a lot of money to be sitting on the bench, not being used and not getting production from. So there is that. I do also, as we begin to wrap things up here, FC Cincinnati has a game this weekend against Club de Foot Montreal, or is it Montreal Club de Foot? It's Montreal. There is talk of this match being played for the first time in Canada, in Montreal, with the COVID restrictions becoming a little bit more relaxed. However, it does require that a player be vaccinated. Now, I'm not here to discuss, or I don't know who all has been vaccinated on FC Cincinnati's team. I don't particularly care. It's not any of my business. It's a personal choice. But if FC Cincinnati plays in Montreal, there is the potential that there might be some guys on this roster who are not vaccinated and eligible to play and not allowed to travel. So we're 5 days away from this match, and nobody at this time right now, I have not seen any confirmation. Have any of you 3 gentlemen?
Nope.
We have no idea where this match is going to be played. Is it going to be played in Florida like it was earlier this year, or is it going to be played in Montreal? That is crazy to me.
Crazy to me. And I think with the vaccine issue, again, getting into, without getting into the politics behind it or whatever, I think it's a little bit much to put that requirement on a player that you can't travel without your vaccine, and we're not going to tell you until 2 days before the match whether you're going to travel. I mean, maybe it wouldn't make a difference to some players, but maybe there'd be a player who would have said, well, if I would have known a month in advance, I would have gone ahead and done it. Maybe.
Yeah, because you can't get your shot now because you're not even truly vaccinated yet.
No, you need, what is it? 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Yeah. So
depending on which dose you take, but yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
Anyway, yeah, to me, it seems a little rough for them to make that change that quick. So
wasn't that the deal behind Columbus getting that player last week because he wasn't vaccinated? Yeah.
Maybe they saw the writing on the wall in terms of there's rumblings. We're going to start trying to get games played in Canada, and they're like, well, who isn't vaccinated? Oh, you're not vaccinated. We got to get rid of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and he made the statement that he wouldn't. So it basically meant that he wouldn't be able to play.
Yeah.
Well, he wouldn't be able to. He could play in Canada. Well, actually, I guess he couldn't get back to Canada without a quarantine, probably, or something. I don't know how that works, but then he couldn't come back out. So I mean, he basically became a worthless player for them because they'd have to travel in and out of the border all the time.
Yeah. So. We do know we got a report today from Laurel Fowler from queencitypress.net that there are a number of players in New York City today. I can't give specifics or know the specifics on why they were in New York City. I'd imagine there's some sort of visa issue that needed to be cleared up for probably some sort of international travel that may or may not happen this week. No idea.
Well, and they may not know, so they may be covering their butts.
Yeah.
Like make sure you have a visa to be able to enter and leave and enter the country again. So there may have had to be a change to what they had.
That has to be it. Why else? What other reason would they have to just suddenly go to New York City?
Celebrating the victory against Columbus?
Sightseeing. Victory. That was no victory.
That was sarcasm. That was sarcasm.
For 2 of them, it is victory because Argentina won against Brazil in Copa America.
Yeah. We did also get word that Michael Vanderwerf has returned to training, is doing some light work on the side from what we've been told from reports, again, from Laurel and Pat Brennan from the Cincinnati Enquirer. I'll tell you what, for a guy who has not played at all this season, it must have been a pretty significant injury if he's still not even back to training with the squad. Even after July 3rd, I think is when he was eligible to return. This must be a pretty significant injury. I don't know, especially with the play of Gustavo Vallecilla and Jeff Cameron now, where he fits in. But I guess that's good news that he's training and add some center back depth should FC Cincinnati need it.
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, coaches have a tendency not to break or change something that's not broken, so to speak, right? So if he feels that Vallecilla and Cameron are getting the job done, then I don't really necessarily see how Van der Verf slots into that.
Yeah.
I think, that you could talk about a 5-man back or a three center back situation. But even then, does Van der Verf come in? I mean, especially after so much downtime. I mean, we've had pretty good success with Stanko even, and of course Hagelin coming off of the bench for late free kicks and such has been pretty important for us. So I don't know. I mean, to me, Van der Verf seems like he's kind of he's going to have a tough fight to get back into that at least. Well, I don't know, but maybe even the 18, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. Clifford in the chat says sports hernia is the most discomforting injury to read. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's not that's not easy to play with.
I was actually laughing at his comment after that. But
about VDW playing right back. Yeah. I watching the match from TQL on Friday night with Ken. Ken was a big advocate last year of putting Jow at right back and trying that experiment. I would say, again, the returns are still, the jury's still out, right? This is a position that is not completely natural to him. I think from a defensive standpoint, I haven't said to myself, man, Joe Jow is just really costing us defensively. That's not, I don't know. That just, for me, doesn't feel like that's been the case. I think we hope Joe Jow takes the next step in his right back evolution is to start providing service out wide for guys like Brenner, guys like Vasquez when he's in. But defensively, I don't know what you three think. I haven't said to myself, wow, we need a right back that can defend, because I think he's been fine from that aspect.
I don't think, I mean, you can't have every player in the MLS be, a super player, right? I mean, that's part of the whole idea between parity and roster restrictions and all these things. I think you have to have some players who aren't DPs and players that aren't TAM players. And I think Jow fits into that mold pretty well. I think he does a good job. I mean, and for what we're asking from him. And could we find a next level right back? Sure. I mean, I think if you look at Matarrita in the left back position, I mean, he is obviously at a different level than Jow is. And I don't know that anybody would argue with that, but you had to pay more money for that. And we can't have, Matarrita on both sides, plus high quality wings, plus, I mean, at some point you have to
and
start
another international spot.
Yeah, and another international spot. Yeah, exactly. So
the domestic player filling a role adequately.
Yeah, you have to make some choices, and I think Jow's been fine. So I mean, I like what he's bringing. I like the effort he's putting in. I like that you can see that he's growing and he's learning.
Helps having Cameron next to him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think as soon as Cameron moved into that spot, it made a huge difference for Jow, because, I see Cameron basically chewing him out all the time because, well, I mean, I say that jokingly, but it's true. I see him yelling at him like, that was stupid. But at the same time, that's what he needs, is somebody to point out right then in the middle of a game what he just did wrong. No. Because to go back and watch film a bunch later, it's kind of hard sometimes to get that sense of, oh, okay, wait a second, now I get why this happens, and that's what he needs, is that tweak during the game to help him see the mistakes he's making that make a difference defensively.
Not to mention, I think bringing Cameron in, knowing that he's got cover behind him should he get caught up the field, has also helped Joe Jow as well.
Sure.
Because you got a guy in Cameron who can make the play behind him, can cover that ground. So that also helps too. We did get this question in the chat. I'll pose this to Jeff and Rob, and if you want to chime in, Bill, you're more than welcome to as well. Marshall on Facebook says thoughts on Vermeer versus Teton. I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Vermeer is the guy going forward. I don't know if that's necessarily the right call. I think Teton's a better shot stopper, but Vermeer is a better distributor. And I think that's more of what Jaap Stam and probably Gerard and Nijkamp want, is that ability to play out the back.
I think ever since the NYCFC game, that 5-0 game, that was when Vermeer came in, and I don't know if that was TT's death knell or whatever, but
that wasn't even TT. That was Cropper.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
You're totally right. I don't know. I guess I wish TT would get another opportunity to play, just so we have that eye test to compare Vermeer to TT. I think
the same back line.
Yeah.
With this back line now too, right?
Yeah.
He didn't have these Vicia and Cameron in front of him.
I don't think. I think Vermeer has been fine. I don't have any issues with him. I guess
could he have saved that shot Friday night?
Vermeer gives me heartburn, man.
I'll say this. I'd feel positive about Cropper with his decisions to come out of net. I think if there's a breakaway, I've seen Cropper in the past where he's able to make those moves and decisions. Like
Cody Cropper.
Cody Cropper
in the past, I'm saying.
Okay.
I don't know about the Cody Cropper we see now, but I've seen him come out of goal and be more decisive in terms of smothering a ball that's come up. With Vermeer, he's late getting out of the box to smother that. Even the second goal, I felt that he was a little late coming out of the box to corral that, and it was just a chip over him after that. I'm not going to be an advocate to say that Cropper should play in over Vermeer, but I also feel that you got to give TD a chance. The only reason he's lost his job is because he really got injured or a tweak before he was supposed to play against NYCFC, right? And then Cropper came in unprepared. If he hadn't gotten injured there, I wonder if even Vermeer had been brought in.
I'd be real curious to see Teton with this back line. Have Matarrita back, Vicia, Cameron, and Zhao playing the way they're playing right now.
He was the goaltender of the week, goalkeeper of the week for the first week one.
Well, he stopped 85 shots.
Yeah. Well, that he won't have to stand on his head, now that he's got a dependable line in front of him.
Yeah, I think TD's leadership is maybe a little bit questionable. And I think, having somebody like Cameron in front of him to provide some of that backline leadership would help. I think Rob's right. It'd be interesting to see the eye test of TD, at this point, because he hasn't been playing, so it would be tough just to throw him in there. But
but how do you make that switch now? You're on an unbeaten run,
right? Exactly. You don't. But for me, Vermeer, as much as I would say, we made changes in the back line. Vermeer, Cameron, Vicia kind of all came roughly at the same time, and it's been better. So why change it? But my gosh, man, I don't remember when that was, but there was a time where he just went way out of the 18, clear off to the left side somewhere with, I don't know if it was Kubo coming in, who was kind of do I shield? Do I kick? I don't know what I do at this point, because why is my goalkeeper here?
Right.
And it's some of those moments I'm just holy cow. He is fearless coming out of the box sometimes, which, gives me heartburn, like I said.
Yeah.
So
I think we're going to go ahead, Jeff.
I'd like to see TT play at least one of these games coming up, because you've got 3 in about a week span, right? Montreal, and then they have to play home against Atlanta before they go on the road again to Nashville. I think you play Vermeer this weekend, and if, let's say, they lose, then I think that's justifiably a good enough reason to use TT at home against Atlanta. I think he could play well against Atlanta.
Yeah, but Vermeer's Dutch.
Then teach him how to speak Dutch. Come on.
Just kidding.
Oh, man. Well, it's quite the interesting debate. It feels like a lot of folks want to see something different in net. Let us know what you think. Feedback at CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com. Let us know how you feel about that situation. You know what we didn't get this week is new Apple Podcast reviews. CSTers, come on. We need some Apple Podcast reviews. I'll give you a free Cincinnati Soccer Talk shirt if you leave a review. It's that simple. Just leave an Apple Podcast review. Send us the screenshot of your review, and I'll send you a free Cincinnati Soccer Talk shirt, whether it's Watch Your Tackles, whether it's Demand Better. Again, just leave us a review. This week's theme, what should we do? Should we do Shandy Time again? We just did Shandy Time. I think we need to do something else.
No, but you got to include the Android users. This Apple stuff has got to go.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I just don't. I'm just messing with you, Subs. It's okay. What can I say? I'm a Snapple. I'm an Apple snob. Let's see here. What should the theme this week be? Should we do something with?
How about if we were talking about money? How about something cryptocurrency related?
What about shushing?
Oh, shushing.
Shushing.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Leave us a review about or turning into your dad. It's a good one too. So again,
and if you could do both.
Yeah, incorporate them both.
Points.
Absolutely.
Bonus
Absolutely.
points.
My back hurts now.
Yeah.
Go leave us a review. CincinnatiSoccerTalk.com/Apple Podcast is where you can do just that. All right, so let's begin to wrap things up. Rob Pierce, I know it's way past your bedtime, sir. You've been a trooper tonight. I appreciate you being on the show. You got any final thoughts?
It is not past my bedtime this week because I'm on vacation this week.
Oh, look at you.
Yeah.
Doing anything fun?
Jimmy Buffett is coming tomorrow.
You're going to be down with the Parrot Heads, huh?
Indeed.
Nice.
And then this weekend, it's we've got a cabin at.
Rob turned his camera off again.
Oh,
did you mean to do that?
I did not. I don't know what happened.
Alrighty.
I'm okay.
Hey,
okay.
back.
I'm back. And then we're going to Athens, the one of the best cities in the state of Ohio this weekend.
Very cool.
Yeah. So anyway, my final thoughts. I just like to highlight a couple of the writers that we have on staff. All the writers that we have on the website do great work, but I want to highlight two in particular. And the first is Nate Gilman. Nate has been doing great work. He's been kind of digging into the numbers after the match, and he'll kind of break things down based on storylines. His last one dealt with the Houston draw, and he was looking at what Brenner can offer besides shooting, since he hasn't had too many goals. Kubo as defensive midfielder, and Medunjanin and Castillo stepping in. He should have a new one coming out tomorrow, so look for that. But it's a must read every time he's got a story on the site. And the second one is Ryan Sparks, and Ryan has been our King's Hammer FC guy this year, and you can really see Ryan's passion for King's Hammer and the USL 2. It really comes out in his writing. And King's Hammer, they made the playoffs, and they'll know their destination if they don't already. They'll know it soon enough, and we'll have more about King's Hammer in the playoffs later this week.
Absolutely. We have to give credit to King's Hammer FC and, of course, Paul Nicholson, head coach there, doing fantastic work with USL League 2. King's Hammer in their first year making the playoffs is an outstanding achievement. So kudos to them. And I agree with you, Rob, about both Alex and Ryan and everybody involved with CST. I know it's been a hard, long couple years covering this squad, but I feel like with this unbeaten run, there's a little bit more energy and people are excited, and we kind of needed that. So as always, Rob, I appreciate your efforts with CST, and have fun on your week off. Don't go too crazy at Buffett, and enjoy Athens.
I absolutely will. I'm glad to be back. I got to do it every once in a while. So I'm happy to be here.
All right, Jeffrey Tebbets, final thoughts?
Yeah, boy, we finally figured out why Caleb Porter was shushing. Obviously, the guy was trying to get your attention, Subs. Everyone else had to be quiet. So, but seriously, the thing that's been on my mind recently, and I'm kind of surprised it's been this year more than anything. It's the U.S. team. They 1-0 victory yesterday against Haiti. Not bad, probably not their best work. I think there were a few people who were a little jittery in terms of the results, but considering that the team was primarily domestic, nobody really over here because of the preseasons in Europe. They did a fine job. They're going to find, I think, more pressure once they have to face a really good Canadian team in their group. But up next is Martinique. We'll see how the team can do that. And if they finish in the top 2 in their group, they're going into the knockout stages. So we have our own little Euro 2020 going on here. I hope people follow it, and I hope people cheer for country as loudly as they do club.
Hopefully they get that result against Martinique, because Canada's no slouch. Canada's for real, and they're ready to win some silverware. I don't know if they will, but they put a hurting on. I don't know who they played last night, but they ended up winning 4-1.
Martinique.
Martinique, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're no slouch. They've got some talented players as well.
Yeah, and that's without Alphonso Davies playing.
Yeah.
Teton Buchanan's become sort of a monster going up the sides. So I'm nervous playing them, but let's take it one game at a time and see how we can do against Martinique.
Yeah, I thought there was some questionable roster choices and decisions by Greg Berhalter on last night. I still don't understand why he continues to play Giassi Zardes at forward. That's just me. I think Daryl DK is the future. And you want to know what you got in Matthew Hoppe. Did really well for Schalke. I mean, I know they got relegated. And to say he did well for Schalke, I mean, he came on as a 19-year-old for a team that was struggling for goals and exploded onto the scene for them. So I want to know what he has to offer. So quit playing Giassi Zardes. I want to see the future. Dang it. Anyway, that's my U.S. men's national team soapbox. Thanks, Jeff. As always, appreciate you.
Okay, thank you.
And last but certainly not least, the Wolfman Bill Wolf. Final thoughts?
Yeah, I want to promote a club event, actually. The FCC Foundation, I think, has been a great addition to the Cincinnati area since this club came into existence. They created a charitable arm of the club, or maybe a separate company, however you look at it. And, I think Kate Solomon over there has been doing a wonderful job, basically finding ways to benefit the community and the West End. And I think they're doing great work. And they have an event coming up this coming Saturday. It's the FCC 3. So it's I think it's a 3K or 3-mile fun run. I can't remember which. But it starts at the stadium and basically ends at the stadium. It's kind of what I understand. And they're looking for volunteers. They're looking for people to run, of course. And, there's some prizes like pizza and conies for doing this. I don't know that I'd want to do that after a run, but hey.
Conies.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, but Skyline and La Rosa's are like, sponsors. So they have that kind of stuff. But the big thing is that they're actually going to do, they're going to play the Montreal match at the stadium.
Oh, cool.
Right. So after the run, you can basically go in, sit, in the stadium and watch the game on the big screen with the speakers and all that. They are selling tickets just to watch the game. So if you don't want to volunteer to run and you don't want to run and, that's just not your thing, then, feel free to pick up a ticket to the, just to watch the match.
Along.
So we can, I'm sure get the link to that. I can find that for you. We can put it into the notes of this or whatever, but yeah, I would encourage people to go out there. I think this is a fun opportunity for us to use the stadium in a different way to watch a match as a group and why not? So, and plus, all this money is for charity. So
yeah, absolutely. Bill or Jeff, will you be running in it? I know you're a runner.
I won't be available this weekend, but I will be training for the half marathon in October.
Very cool.
Maybe if I'm encouraged, I'll wear a Demand Better t-shirt on that.
Oh, I like it. And Bill, as always, appreciate you. Fantastic work Friday night and drumming away. Your arms are recovered. You're good. You're ready?
It's no big deal. I do this all the time.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. My final thoughts as we get out of here. I I can't, the amount of folks that were kind enough to stop and say hello and let me know what they thought of the show Friday night was absolutely incredible. I think I'm saying his name correctly. I think his name was Mike Joyce, was sitting 2 seats next to me, stopped me in the second half and said, "Hey, are you the Cincinnati Soccer Talk guy?" And I said, "Yes, I am." And we talked, and he, and along with his friends, are all GCL guys, St. X and Elder. I'm the Moeller guy. So we had the GCL represented Friday night during the match. Saw Timotina Harris very briefly after the match. I saw the silent assassin, Susie, and I can't remember her name, Bill. Do you remember a few years ago, there was an Indy 11 player who was whining about some sort of play that happened, and Susie called him out on Twitter. Susie, is it Langen? I think it's Langen.
Yeah.
So Susie, it was good to see you Friday night. Every time I see her, I think of that tweet that absolutely took him down, and it was pretty epic. So that was good seeing her. I know everybody wants to see more and more results on the field. I go back to like just the fact of how excited I was to be at the stadium with my son, to see how beautiful it was, the experience parking. I mean, it's really easy. Yeah, I had about a 20-minute walk to the stadium, but it was really, really easy to get down there. No issues. There's obviously some stuff that needs to be cleaned up there inside the stadium. There are only 4 matches in. There's a lot that they're still learning about this stadium that they'll get corrected and they'll get fixed for future matches. But I got to say kudos to everybody there at the club. The stadium is absolutely a gem, and can't wait to go to more and more of the matches there at TQL Stadium. Don't forget, we have March to Match Day coming up a little bit later on this week, as Brad in Boston will be previewing the Montreal match. And of course, we've got Talking Tactics with Coach Goff and Justin Hoyt. They'll break it all down for you a little bit later on this week as well. So that'll do it for this episode of Cincinnati Soccer Talk. For Jeff Tebbetts, Rob Pierce, and the Wolfman, Bill Wolf, I'm Nick Serberling, reminding you to watch your tackles, and we will see you all next week.